Imagine you're deep in the silent deserts of Egypt. You're an archaeologist standing in a tomb that hasn't been opened in thousands of years. But then you notice something odd. A carved horned viper, deliberately sliced through the neck. The Egyptians were obsessed with perfection and eternity. Yet their own scribes mutilated these holy carvings. And once you start looking for them, you see it everywhere. Pyramid of Pepi. Animals cut in half. Chapel of Men. The removal of men's phallus. Temple of Horus, Edfu. Figures chipped out of the image. Nebetit coffin. While not a chisel mark, shows a snake with its neck not connected to its body. Temple of Philae shows figure chiseled out of the images. And the various broken noses of Egypt. Berlin green head. Statue of the pharaoh Amasis. This Egyptian scribe. Statue of Ptolemy II. And even the Great Sphinx. From dynasty after dynasty, separated by centuries, the ancient Egyptians were doing the exact same thing. This was systematic, deliberate, and this was normal to them. So what were they doing? To understand that, you need to know how ancient Egyptians saw their writing. To the ancient Egyptians, hieroglyphs weren't symbols on a page. And without getting into the linguistic details of how hieroglyphs were used, phonetically or symbolically, this is the gist of it. When we write the word snake, we're creating a sound symbol that represents the concept of a snake. But when an Egyptian scribe carved a hieroglyph of a snake, they were creating something that could become real. In the Egyptian worldview, images held power. They believed that through the right rituals, through the opening of the mouth ceremony, statues could be brought to life. What was carved in stone or painted on the walls was not inert. It had the potential to act. For Egyptians, this was how reality worked. The image and the thing it represented were not separate. They were connected by invisible threads of magic that ran through everything. And in certain contexts, in tombs, in temples, in the liminal spaces between the world of the living and the world of the dead, those connections were strongest. Hieroglyphs had power, which means if a hieroglyph could come to life, then the dangerous ones were deadly. And for Egyptians, nowhere was this more critical than in a tomb. Let's think like an Egyptian. What is a tomb? It's a house for eternity. The deceased are going to be there alone for thousands of years, journeying through the underworld, facing challenges, needing guidance. So you, like any good Egyptian would, you fill the walls with everything they need. Spells to help them navigate the darkness, maps of the underworld, protective incantations, instructions for the journey. But there's a problem. Those texts describe the journey. The journey is dangerous. The path through the underworld is filled with serpents that breathe fire, crocodiles that devour souls, demons waiting in the darkness. The Egyptians wrote about these threats so the deceased knew what was coming and how to defend themselves. But if you write them, if you carve them into the wall, you might be bringing them to life in the one place your loved one is most vulnerable. So you carve a serpent because the text needs it, because the word for a certain demon or spell requires that hieroglyph. But you don't carve it whole. You leave it incomplete. A snake without its head, a bird missing legs, a scorpion with no stinger. This was precision work. They kept the meaning but killed the danger. For the Egyptians, this was love, and it was fear. There was another kind of mutilation, and it was far more personal. Some mutilation was about destroying people. In ancient Egypt, your name was your identity, not just in life, in eternity. Your name appearing in hieroglyphs, carved in stone, spoken in prayers, that's what kept you alive in the afterlife. That's what made you immortal. Which means erasing someone's name didn't just remove them from the history books, and it's not just a political move. It erased them from existence. The Romans even had a phrase for this: damnatio memoriae, condemnation of memory. But the Egyptians were doing it 1,000 years before Rome even existed, and they wielded it like a weapon. Take Hatshepsut, female pharaoh, ruled for over 20 years successfully by all accounts, built monuments, led trade expeditions, brought prosperity, and then she died. And 20 years later, 2 full decades after her death, someone began systematically erasing her. Her cartouches, those oval frames containing her name, were chiseled out of temple walls. Her statues were defaced, buried, or smashed. Anywhere her name appeared, it was attacked. You can still see the violence of it. The rough holes where her name used to be, the careful precision it took to remove just her cartouche and leave the surrounding text intact. Was it her stepson, Thutmose? Or his son, Amenhotep, securing his own claim to power? Scholars seem to debate if it was personal revenge or political necessity, but what we know is the goal was to make it as if she never had existed at all. Let's take Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh. He tried to overthrow 3,000 years of Egyptian religion. He closed the temples, banned the old gods, and declared there was only one god, the Aten, the sun disk. It didn't last. After his death, Egypt returned to the old gods with a fury. But the erasure didn't come immediately. It came later, after his successors had tried and failed to restore order. It was Horemheb, ruling years after Akhenaten's death, who launched the campaign to erase the heretic from history. His temples were dismantled, their stones reused in new buildings, buried where no one could see them. His name was hacked out of King's List. His capital city was abandoned to the desert. In official records, he became invisible. The King's List jumped straight from his father to Horemheb, as if an entire dynasty had never happened. Now imagine you're back in that tomb, standing in the stillness, looking at these hieroglyphs with their careful and deliberate wounds. Now you understand what you're seeing. This was not ancient people being primitive or superstitious. This was a sophisticated civilization operating from a completely different understanding of reality. To them, there was no separation between the symbol and the thing it symbolized, no barrier between image and essence. And for them, magic wasn't separate from the physical world. It was the physical world, just the part we couldn't see. Writing wasn't just communication in this case. It was creation, and it was power. And yeah, sometimes it was dangerous. In modern day, we preserve ancient writing because we want to remember the past, to understand who came before us. The Egyptians destroyed their own writing because they needed to survive the future, both in this life and the next. In the darkness of that tomb, these images were killed before they could wake. The scribe who killed them believed that without those chisel strikes, what was carved could become real. And if the ancient Egyptians were right about how reality works, that's exactly where they need to stay. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you got to this point in the video, it means you watched the majority of it, and I'm speaking to you guys directly. I really appreciate it. These videos take a long time for me to make, and I'm just some random guy, so I really appreciate it. If you want another video to watch, I did a video on Cyrillic. So if you could do me a favor, leave a like, subscribe. If you enjoy it, go check the other video. And yeah, I appreciate everyone for getting to this point in the video. I do really appreciate it. All right. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.